Bricc Baby for the AK-47, according to Whack 100. When it came to pick up Bricc Baby for the AK-47, Whack believes that Bricc Baby struck a deal with the feds. He believes that Bricc Baby got picked up by the feds for the AK-47. There's no paperwork on it. Bricc Baby don't have a court date for the feds because Bricc Baby is cooperating against Lil Durk. So when you hear him push that point so hard, understand that's where he's getting to.
In a shocking courtroom outburst, Lil Durk allegedly attacked Bricc Baby as he testified against him in the King Von murder case. The room erupted in chaos as emotions boiled over and the truth took a back seat to raw fury. This is hip-hop's most explosive moment yet. The air inside the courtroom was already thick with tension when Bricc Baby took the stand, until Lil Durk stood up and launched himself across the room like a caged animal finally breaking free. It wasn't just an argument, it wasn't even a heated exchange, it was a full-blown attack. Security officers scrambled as Durk lunged toward Bricc, shouting incoherent threats, his eyes wild with rage. The judge pounded the gavel, the jury sat frozen in disbelief, and the world watched in stunned silence as one of hip-hop's biggest stars turned on the man who had just betrayed him. "I didn't come here to be disrespected," Durk screamed, his voice cracking under the weight of fury and humiliation. "You talking about me like I'm some kind of monster? You were supposed to protect me." What followed was a scene straight out of a movie, the kind that would make headlines for weeks.
We all thought that was a bad deal. And it wasn't until February of 2023 that Bricc Baby goes on the internet and says, I guess they can't say OTF didn't slide for King Von anymore. March, the feds come to Bricc Baby's house. I'm screaming, Bricc Baby just got picked up by the feds. What's happening? When your court date? We're under the presumption that it's an AK-47 case. But what really happened was they came there to get his cell phone. Bricc Baby called 600. He said, the feds been on me since March. We think it's an AK-47 case, right? He wakes up this morning in a panic. He goes on there and starts running his mouth. If you go in there and look at that report, number 4 is a local guy that was dropping Quando's locations. After the when Quando went back to Georgia, what did he immediately do?
Dropped his flag?
What was he claiming?
Roll 60s.
Where Bricc Baby from?
Roll 60s.
Who you think he checked in with?
Roll 60s.
With who?
Okay, I see where you're going with this.
That's
fuel conspiracy theories for months and dominate social media for years. Bricc, once a close associate and trusted member of Durk's inner circle, now stood at the center of a storm that had erupted not just in the courtroom, but in the hearts and minds of millions of fans watching from home. This wasn't just another trial. This was War. Lil Durk, born Durkoy McKinley, is no stranger to controversy, a Chicago native who rose from the streets to become one of the most successful rappers of his generation. His career has always been marked by both brilliance and brutality, from the early days of Only the Family to his record-breaking collabs with artists like Drake and Future. Durk built an empire rooted in authenticity, loyalty, and raw emotion, but behind the music lies a story of survival, betrayal, and bloodshed. And now with Bricc Baby stepping forward as a key witness in the King Von murder case, the lines between friend and foe have never been blurrier. King Von, Davon Bennett to his family and friends, was more than just a rising star. He was a symbol of resilience, a rapper whose music told stories of struggle, ambition, and heartache. His death in November 2022
was made before the murder happened. I don't personally believe it's possible for a lyric so obviously describing the circumstances of what exactly happened after the murder. To me, it just cannot be possible. I don't care that you've got a screenshot of, like, I just don't care that you've got a screenshot of some metadata a few months before to say, oh, well, a song, a file was created before the murder happened, so it can't, like, bro, you could have jumped back in the studio and edited that bar to be like, yo, let me just throw an extra bar on this before we drop this song so I can really just, like, mock the victim of the murder. Like, can we just change that? Like, that just doesn't mean anything to me, right? So this is just like, I just wanted to give you that context and just explain to you that, like, Lil Durk is trying to get out based on this little finesse, and he's trying to put everything all on this, like, one fan-made version of the song where they took Quando Rondo's "No" and superimposed it onto the song of Lil Durk.
Sent shockwaves through the rap community, sparking debates, conspiracy theories, and endless speculation. Now, with the trial reaching its boiling point, The truth is finally coming out, but not without cost. Bricc Baby, real name Bryce Ivory, had long been considered one of Durk's closest allies. Known for his role as a manager and business partner, he was seen as the man who helped keep Durk grounded, as during the chaos of fame. But now, with Bricc taking the stand and alleging that Durk was involved in the murder of King Von, that image has shattered, and as Durk's reaction made clear, the betrayal ran deep. "I trusted him with my life," Durk said after the incident, still visibly shaken. He was like family. "We grew up together. We built this together. And then one day, he turns around and tries to sell me out." But what exactly did Bricc say that set off such a violent reaction? According to court documents and live reports from the hearing, Bricc testified that he was present during the events leading up to King Von's murder. He described how tensions escalated after a failed business meeting involving multiple parties, including members of both Durk's and Von's crews.
Indictment says an associate of TB pulled out a gun and shot DB multiple times, killing him. Now, the indictment doesn't have the full names of TB or DB, but the circumstances match the November 6, 2020 shooting death of rapper King Von, whose real name is Davon Bennett. And of course, we know Quando Rondo's real name to be Taekwon Bowman. So where does Lil Durk come into play here? Well, federal prosecutors say after King Von's murder, Lil Durk wanted revenge. According to the indictment, Banks made clear in coded language that he would pay a bounty to...
The details are still being pieced together, but what we do know is that the situation spiraled out of control quickly. Everything was going fine at first, Bricc explained. "We were talking numbers, setting up the deal, but then things got heated. People started doubting each other, and before I knew it, it was too late." Durk, however, denied any involvement in the shooting. He claimed that Bricc was lying, that he was trying to save himself or get a lighter sentence, but the damage had already been done. By the time Bricc finished his testimony, the atmosphere in the courtroom was electric, and when Durk stormed out mid-hearing, it was clear that the battle was far from over. "I don't care if he's telling the truth or not," Durk said later in an interview with a reporter. "I will not let anyone destroy my legacy. Not like this. After everything I've been through." His words carried the weight of a man who had spent years fighting for respect, only to see it all unravel in front of the world. For Durk, this isn't just about a murder case. It's about identity, reputation, and the future of his career. But what does this mean for the trial? What does it mean for the people involved, and what happens next? As the case continues to unfold.
All right, so it looks like we've got Lil Durk and his legal team trying their hardest to get Lil Durk out of jail. Yesterday, they filed a motion to dismiss the superseding indictment against Lil Durk because they believe that the prosecution team presented evidence to the grand jury that was not rooted in fact. Specifically, they are claiming that part of the evidence the prosecution team provided to the grand jury regarding a song that he did with Babyface Ray called Wonderful World and Jackie Boy, and the version of this song that they presented to the grand jury to get that superseding indictment had a clip of Quando Rondo yelling out no after his cousin Lul Pabb was shot in LA. They presented this to the grand jury as if Lil Durk had added that no scream to the record himself. Him and his legal team and the producer of this record and the owner of the studio that recorded this record are claiming that Lil Durk had no say.
One thing is certain, the lines between fact and fiction are blurring faster than ever. Every word spoken in that courtroom carries the potential to change the outcome of the trial, and every action taken by those involved could have lasting consequences. For Bricc Baby, the risks are high. By turning against someone as powerful as Lil Durk, he may have saved himself legally, but he may also have lost something far more valuable, his credibility. In a world where loyalty is currency, betraying a brother can come at a steep price. "I didn't want to do this," Bricc admitted during a recent interview, "but I had to tell the truth. No more lies, no more silence. I've seen too many people go down because they didn't speak up. I won't be one of them." His statement reflects a growing trend in hip-hop, a shift toward accountability, transparency, and the pursuit of justice. But it also highlights the dangers of speaking out in a culture where silence often means safety. Meanwhile, Durk remains defiant. Despite the mounting pressure and the fallout from his courtroom outburst, he shows no signs of backing down. In fact, he's using the attention to his advantage, turning the narrative into one of
anyone who took part in killing Quando Rondo for his role in King Von's murder. That all came to a head nearly 2 years later on August 18th of 2022, when Banks, his alleged co-conspirators, and co-defendants tracked down Quando Rondo to Los Angeles. The indictment names Banks' co-defendants as Kevon London Grant, DeAndre Dontrell Wilson, Keith Jones, David Brian Lindsay, and Asa Houston. Prosecutors say on August 18th of 2022, after the men learned where Quando Rondo was in LA, at the direction
victimhood and injustice. This whole thing is a setup. He claimed in a recent press conference, they're trying to take me down. They're trying to make me look like a criminal so they can take everything I've worked for, but I won't let them. His words have sparked a wave of support from fans and fellow artists alike, many of whom believe he's being unfairly targeted. Others, however, remain skeptical, pointing to the inconsistencies in his statements and the lack of concrete evidence, proving his innocence. As the trial moves forward, the focus will inevitably shift to the physical altercation itself. Was it justified? Was it a calculated move to disrupt the proceedings? Or was it simply a man losing control in a moment of desperation? Whatever the answer, one thing is clear: the impact of this incident will be felt far beyond the courtroom walls. In the days following the attack, security measures have been heightened, and both Durk and Bricc are reportedly under constant surveillance. Their families have issued statements urging peace and caution, while their legal teams work tirelessly to navigate the complex web of charges and counter-charges. But beneath the surface, the real battle is being fought in the public eye. Social media is ablaze with reaction
as evidence. The issue of the timing of Mr. Banks' recording of the lyrics verse in question is not one of the frivolous or inconsequential value. It is quite the opposite. The government's misrepresentations about the creation and meaning of Wonderful Wayne are the linchpin of the superseding indictment's theory of Mr. Banks' guilt. There's no way that's all the evidence they have. Well, they have more, but it was just text messages. There's got to be more, right? It can't just be lyrics. We've all seen how lyrics go in the YSL trial. Following the attempted murder of TB and the murder of SR, defendant Banks sought to commercialize SR's death by rapping about his revenge on TB with music.
Opinions and theories. Some call for justice, others demand answers. And in the middle of it all, two men, one a superstar, the other a fallen ally, are locked in a fight that could define the rest of their lives. For Durk, the stakes couldn't be higher. If convicted, he faces decades in prison, the end of his career, and the loss of everything he's worked for. For Bricc, the risk is equally daunting. Even if he walks away with a lighter sentence, the damage to his reputation may be irreversible. And then there's King Von. His name has become a symbol of the tragedy that brought these two worlds together. His music lives on, his legacy remains strong, and his memory continues to inspire. But in the midst of this chaos, it's easy to forget that this case is ultimately about him. I just want the truth to come out, Dreezy Von's younger brother and fellow artist said in a recent interview. No matter what it takes, my brother deserves justice. That's all I ask. 4. His words serve as a reminder of why this case matters. It's not just about money, power, or ego. It's about lives that were changed forever and a community that refuses to forget. As
Wilson through text that Wilson, Jones, and Lindsay had the same airline ticket confirmation. And Wilson messaged a friend on Instagram saying, "On my way to LA." From there, Kevon Grant allegedly purchased 4 black ski masks from a sporting goods store, but used cash to pay. But seemingly messed up when he allegedly used another OTF credit card to rent a hotel for the co-conspirators. Prosecutors say after Grant met with the co-conspirators, he gave Keith Jones, David Lindsay, and another unnamed co-conspirator firearms, including a firearm.
The trial continues, the world watches with bated breath. New development, every twist and turn adds another layer to a story that has already become one of the most dramatic chapters in hip-hop history. And with Lil Durk's recent outburst, the fire has only grown hotter. So what happens next? Will Durk face the consequences of his actions? Will Bricc walk away unscathed? And will the truth finally come to light? Only time will tell, but one thing is certain, this case is far from over, and the drama is just getting started. The story behind King Von's murder has always been shrouded in mystery, but with Bricc Baby stepping forward and revealing explosive details, the truth is finally coming to light, and it's far more complicated than anyone expected. What started as a business meeting between two rising rap titans turned into a deadly confrontation fueled by greed, ego, and betrayal. At the center of it all is a $10 million deal that brought together members of both Lil Durk's and King Von's crews, setting the stage for one of the most dramatic moments in hip-hop history. According to Bricc Baby, who once served as a trusted advisor and close associate of Lil Durk,
then parked the car so Jones, Lindsay, and unnamed co-conspirator 2 could attempt to murder Quando Rondo. Prosecutors say the men shot at Quando Rondo's car, but ended up killing his cousin who was standing next to Quando's car. Then the men fled and went to a local burger joint to discuss payment. The same day Quando's cousin was killed, prosecutors say an OTF credit card was used to purchase plane tickets from San Diego back to Chicago for Wilson, Jones, Lindsay, Houston, and co-conspirator 2. Fast forward to October of
Durk. The original plan was simple: create a joint venture that would combine their growing influence in music, fashion, and real estate. The goal was to build something bigger than just songs and concerts, something that could sustain both artists for years to come. But as negotiations progressed, things quickly spiraled out of control. I tried to keep things calm, Bricc admitted during his testimony. I told them to talk it out, to work through their differences, but no one wanted to listen. They were too focused on what they thought was owed to them. What should have been a partnership became a battlefield. Disagreements over profit splits, creative control, and personal egos turned what should have been a win-win situation into a war. And in a world where reputation is everything, those disagreements had consequences far beyond the boardroom. As tensions escalated, rumors of betrayal and double-crossing spread like wildfire. In hip-hop, trust is currency, and when it breaks down, the results can be catastrophic. Bricc claims that the atmosphere grew so toxic that even he found himself caught in the middle, trying to mediate a situation that was clearly beyond repair. Money can make you blind, he said during the hearing.
Asked for privacy after leaving court, telling ABC, quote, "We will not be commenting at this time." I want to bring in ABC News contributor and Sirius XM radio host Mike Muse and ABC News contributor and criminal defense attorney Shauna Lloyd for more on all of this. And Shauna, I want to start with you on this. The charges against these men include conspiracy to commit murder for hire and use of a machine gun in a violent crime resulting in a death. The most serious charge carries...
You start thinking you're untouchable. You start making decisions based on greed instead of love. And when that happens, you lose sight of everything else. His words struck a chord with many in the courtroom, especially considering the emotional impact King Von's death had on his family, friends, and fans. The rapper's younger brother, Dreezy, who is also a musician, has been vocal about his grief and anger since the shooting. Now, with the person responsible finally speaking out, the pressure is on to ensure justice is served. Not just legally, but emotionally and spiritually. But what exactly happened that night in November 2022? According to Bricc, the situation escalated after a failed business meeting involving multiple parties. The details are still unclear, but what we do know is that tensions were high, tempers were short, and a confrontation turned fatal. The exact cause of the conflict is still under investigation, but Bricc claims it all started with a disagreement over a multi-million-dollar deal that was meant to bring together two powerful factions in the music and business worlds. People don't understand how big that deal was, he explained. It wasn't just about music, it was about real estate, brand.
I think that's also why you're important, your circle is important, because like, you know, somebody can make a video on me, right? And I get pissed off. I could think some crazy shit in my head, but I don't have anybody around me that's gonna gas me up. So it's like, yeah, if you're bragging about you're around all these killers and then somebody dishes you, all these killers are gonna be like, man, what's up? I want a new Rolex. Just give me a Rolex. I'll go knock them off. Just fly me over there. I'm gonna make it happen.
Merch, everything. We were talking about building an empire, but then things got messy. Trust broke down. People started doubting each other, and I guess I lost control. His statement paints a picture of a deal gone wrong, but it doesn't explain the full context. Who were the other players in the deal? Were there other rappers or business figures involved? And most importantly, was King Von truly the target, or was he just caught in the crossfire? As the case moves forward, these unanswered questions will continue to fuel speculation and debate. And with the media circling like vultures, every detail will be examined, every motive questioned, and every possible angle explored. But one thing is certain: this case is no longer just about two rappers. It's about the entire culture, the system, and the cost of living life in the spotlight. Hip-hop has always been a genre defined by its struggles and triumphs. But in recent years, it's become increasingly intertwined with the legal system. From Drake and Pusha T's feud to Meek Mill and R. Kelly's battles, the courtroom has become as much a part of the rap game as the stage. And now with Lil Durk and King Von
clock surveillance by security services and whatever other conditions the court deems necessary. Right? So Lil Durk is saying, hey, if y'all dismiss this superseding indictment, bro, I want to be let out on bond. I don't know if that'll happen for him or not, because when they arrested him, it looked like he was trying to flee the country. But if that is what we got, that's the paperwork. I'm not gonna lie, Lil Durk and his legal team, they're making a strong case right here for why this evidence shouldn't be allowed and why this superseding indictment should be thrown out. Only time will tell if this will be successful. You know, I'm one of them people, I don't have a lot of faith in the government doing the right thing ever, but that's what we got, man. That's the story, that's the video. Y'all gotta let me know what y'all think about all this in the comments down below. Anyways, that's basically it for the video, guys. If you enjoyed the content, be sure to hit the like button, subscribe.
At the center of the latest drama, the stakes have never been higher. What's interesting is that Bricc Baby's testimony comes at a time when the music industry is undergoing major changes. Streaming services are reshaping the way artists make money, independent labels are gaining power, and fan support is more crucial than ever. In this climate, the idea of a $10 million deal seems almost surreal, but for someone like Lil Durk, who has spent years climbing the ladder and building a brand, it's not just a number, it's a symbol of everything he's worked for. I've been fighting for this since I was a kid, Bricc said during the hearing. I wanted to be successful. I wanted to provide for my family. I wanted to prove that I could make it out of the streets, but sometimes the price is too high. His words reflect the reality that many artists face. Success often comes with a heavy burden, the pressure to stay relevant, the fear of losing everything, and the constant scrutiny from fans and critics alike can take a toll on even the strongest minds. And for Bricc, it seems like the stress of the situation may have been too much to handle, but was it really about the money, or was there something deeper at play? That's the question that lingers in the air.
To murder of 24-year-old Stephon Mack, who was alleged to be a gangster disciples leader. The agent alleges Lil Durk was offering money for people to kill those responsible for his brother's murder. Lil Durk hasn't been criminally charged for that alleged murder for hire plot. However, prosecutors did use that affidavit as evidence to get Lil Durk's request for bail denied, and he, as well as his co-defendants, remain behind bars since their respective arrests. But all of them are facing a hefty sentence, the rest of their life in prison, if convicted.
Because while the $10 million deal may have been the catalyst, it's unlikely to be the only factor. There are layers to this story that haven't been fully uncovered yet. There are relationships that have been tested, alliances that have been broken, and secrets that are still waiting to be revealed. And as the trial continues, we can expect more surprises, more revelations, and more drama. Because in the world of hip-hop, nothing is ever as simple as it seems. Brick's testimony has already changed the trajectory of the case. Where once the focus was on proving Lil Durk's innocence, it's now about determining the severity of his actions and the consequences that will follow. If he's found guilty, the punishment could be severe, but if he's seen as acting in self-defense or under duress, the outcome could be very different. Either way, the ripple effects will be felt throughout the industry. Artists will be watching closely, learning from this case, and using it as a cautionary tale. Fans will be divided, some supporting Lil Durk, others demanding justice for King Von. And the conversation about accountability in hip-hop will only grow louder. But what about King Von's legacy? How will this affect his memory and his music?
Regard to his possible acts and things of that nature. And so it doesn't come as a surprise here. One of the things the government charged here is conspiracy, and they're alleging that OTF, or Only the Family, is essentially this umbrella of an organization that engages in criminal activity or a pattern of criminal behavior, including the murder for hire. They're alleging that Lil Durk is the primary principal who is essentially instructing other individuals to commit these, anywhere from a month to a few months. I think it was a good move on the defense end to adjourn the trial out so that they can get through all of the discovery, they can continue through their investigations and things of that nature. And they really want to bulletproof their defense. And adjourning the trial till October really gives them an opportunity to do that. Now, of course, Lil Durk doesn't want to sit there. Nobody wants to sit, in prison or incarceration. But I think that was the best move necessary to protect his rights in this case. And while they're trying to point together and pin together these alleged acts that have spanned, I think, since the initial 2020 shooting incident, the defense is going to attack it each and every step of the way.
Do you think prosecutors will use music and his own lyrics kind of against him in trial?
I am expecting that that is going to happen. And I personally, as a defense attorney, have a significant issue with that. You know, we have a First Amendment.
Say Lil Durk is your client. What kind of defenses are you going to be using, especially in a federal trial case like this?
You know, on a case like this, you know, if I was Dirk's attorney, my client is not as involved as the government would like them to allege. All my client does here is he's a rapper. He runs this organization, but it's an organization that's geared towards music and in the music industry. We do hear, you know, lyrics of violence and things like that in the music industry and the matters that he's tending to. He has other matters that he needs to tend to. So them trying to rope him in, just like they've been doing to other, you know, artists in as of recently, is not something that we'd allow to happen, and we would fight that case at each and every stage.
Yeah, and I was kind of to piggyback off that answer there. It seems like for fans of Lil Durk, it does seem like, you know, oh, another great artist is taken up by the system, you know, especially after appearing to get your life together. Then, you know, allegedly by your own actions, get into something like this.